US Secretary of State Antony Blinken is on his way back to the Middle East to present a new plan for a ceasefire in Gaza. He says the new proposal has input from Qatar and Egypt and addresses some of the key concerns of both Israel and Hamas. The plan initially provides for a complete and unrestricted ceasefire of 6 weeks. Blinken's trip comes after a Hamas spokesperson said that signs of progress after 2 days of talks in Doha were an illusion, and after another wave of Israeli airstrikes in central Gaza.
Back-to-back Israeli strikes on an apartment block in central Gaza. After the dust clears, people bring out the dead and injured. Not far away, a house and a warehouse destroyed in an overnight Israeli attack. The Hamas-run Gaza Health Ministry said over a dozen people were killed, most from the same family.
They were asleep in their beds, kids and babies. Then 3 missiles targeted their home. The place is well known. Abu Jawad is a fish and meat merchant. If they're targeting merchants, who else is next?
The Israeli military said it had struck militant targets in an area where rockets had been fired at its troops. It has also called on residents in parts of central Gaza to flee ahead of a new military operation.
There is great suffering. How can we move from place to place without money? I left home. I didn't know where to go. I swear to God that people gave me 5 shekels to go to the hospital to treat my son.
The latest strike came hours after mediators, including the US, Qatar and Egypt, expressed optimism that a ceasefire deal between Israel and Hamas could be imminent.
The mediators have submitted an important proposal. There is communication between the Israeli and Palestinian sides, and if the intentions are sincere and if there is political will, then a ceasefire can be reached. We're looking at ways to close any remaining gaps.
Hamas did not participate directly in the first round of peace talks in Doha, and it cast doubt on the prospect of an agreement. Meanwhile, Gazans are keeping their fingers crossed for a potential breakthrough in the upcoming negotiations, which are set to resume in Cairo next week.
Journalist Balig Sladeen joins us from Tel Aviv. Could some part of these talks pave the way for a ceasefire, or could you envisage the actual signing of a deal at this point in time?
Well, that's definitely what the Americans and the other mediators are hoping for. We are approaching a dramatic week. There are still some gaps, according to what we've heard. And the delegation that came from Cairo on Friday told the Prime Minister, and that's according to the Prime Minister's office, that there is some cautious optimism, as the statement from the Prime Minister's office states, which means that there could be some of the issues that remained unsolved, specifically the Philadelphia corridor and the Netzarim corridor, which is the corridor that splits the Gaza Strip into 2. And the Israeli side is still asking for some sort of a system or a method or a way to monitor who goes back from the Gazans from the south of the Strip to their homes to the north of the Strip, according to the framework that President Biden puts out last May. He said that only civilians will go back to the north of the Gaza Strip, and that's an issue for the Israelis, and the Prime Minister is still asking for a way to ensure that specific thing. Now, this week, there is a delegation that will go to Cairo in order to deal with the Philadelphia corridor issue. And Secretary Blinken is set to arrive to Israel today and meet with Israeli officials, including the Prime Minister, tomorrow in order to discuss the remaining gaps, specifically that Netzarim corridor issue that I just said.
Blinken's been back and forth time and again during this war. How do you think his presence during these negotiations could change things?
Well, this is, I guess, it's his 10th or 9th visit to the region, and he always comes here after some more development has been made. Now, Blinken knows, and that's what the president also said, that the Israeli side will not give up on the Nitzarine issue and also the Philadelphia corridor issue. And that's why Blinken is said to come to Israel in order to put more pressure on the Israelis. But I'm not sure exactly how, because the only way that the Americans has put in pressure on the Israelis is by withholding some of the ammunition, specifically the heavy bombs that the administration has yet to deliver, to supply to Israel. And that has been since, I guess, April or May. So we're not talking about anything new that could put more pressure on the Israelis, maybe only to convince them to avoid a full-blown out war with the Iranians, because the Americans are hoping that if we proceed to a ceasefire deal, then that will deter the Iranians and Hezbollah from attacking Israel.
You heard from journalist Balig Sladeen in Tel Aviv. Thank you very much for being on DW News.
Thank you.